Hello, and welcome back to the History of series. Today we'll be exploring further into Gallifreyan history, taking a look at the anchoring of the thread and Rassilon's rise to power. This is part 2 of my series on the history of Gallifrey, so I highly recommend you check out part 1 first if you haven't already. But anyway, let's get right into it. As new cultures evolved and began to impose their own understandings and versions of meaning onto the universe, a definite framework began to emerge. Since these other species could be completely different to the people of Gallifrey, their assembled history was feared to grow unkind to the Empire. Indeed, some unclassifiable events were glimpsed in the formative future. The first time travel technology was developed and used to avert such events. The first time machine, the Timescape, was powered psychically rather than technologically. The Archons claim that the Time Lords didn't discover time travel for themselves, but instead developed it after they declared war on the Archons and stole their technology, leaving only 7 survivors trapped in the Nameless city at the Great Desolation. To permanently fix this issue, Rassilon decided to conduct the anchoring of the thread. The machinery needed to build the structure of time was bigger than anything else ever built on Gallifrey. The planetary mass of an engineered planet, crowned Time, was employed to bind time itself, converging in the Temple of Atropos, where all of time would pass through the 6 Muri, whose will would keep it controlled. Proto-time ships embedded themselves at various strategic points of time and space, serving to anchor the threads of history into one whole, with these points later becoming load-bearing node points of linear history. The Eye of Harmony played an important role in the anchoring, as a sort of hitching post of chronology, with later legend claiming that the Web of Time could not exist until Rassilon built the Eye. With the Eye active, Rassilon was able to make the universe into one positive time, with Gallifrey anchoring the continuity of the universe into a system where time was finite. Some academics pondered if, by the same logic, that matter had a counterpart in antimatter, positive time had a counterpart in the form of a chaotic force called anti-time. Romana too once stated, "Positive time, the web of time, must have its shadow," according to all the laws of the rational universe Rassilon had established. According to some obscure legends, the Time Lords preserved a small sliver of a rational reality, the second, so that they could reverse the anchoring if it did not go as planned. The Time Lords' plan for ending the Dark Times and beginning the Web of Time involved a war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Specifically, it required Krishna to be killed by an archer. King Jarasandha foresaw this future and tried to ensure Krishna would die of old age, but the Time Lords intervened, and history was successfully rewritten. On Gallifrey in Year Zero, a ceremony was held at the Machine Heart on Gallifrey, during which the anchoring was finalised as the structure of history was literally locked in, as Rassilon used the Great Key of Rassilon to activate the Eye of Harmony. Standing by his side were a number of other Gallifreyans, elite representatives of the 6 ruling houses, or chapters, there to bond their chapters' biologies with the newly structured universe at a more fundamental level. At the same time, field agents took their places inside the proto-time ships, which had embedded themselves at the future node points of history. The day ultimately ended in disaster, as a monstrous entity from outside the universe took this opportunity to break into the space-time continuum, killing most of the representatives and wrecking the machinery. This created the caldera, at which the capital would be built upon. Some within the reordered universe opposed the Time Lord's decision to bind time in the service of space. The Ravagers, 2 powerful beings, were at the forefront of a war to unmake what the Gallifreyans had planned, and prevent the Dark Times from ending. During the final battle of the conflict, they took control of the Temple of Atropos, and banished the 6 Muri. However, an elite team of the Division, led by the fugitive Doctor, was able to capture the 2 Ravagers and smuggle the 6 Muri back into the Temple, where they once again took their places and controlled time. The Mammoths, who possessed powerful magic and ruled humans on Earth in their original sentient forms, also opposed the Time Lords' actions. The Mammoths on Earth lost most of their powers in the anchoring, preventing them from immediately fighting back. However, their leader, Cernunnos, survived, and would later set about unravelling the spiral politic, with one account implying it was he who became the enemy and sparked the war in heaven. After the anchoring, Gallifrey was set apart from the rest of the universe as an observer and a definer of the spiral politic. The Time Lords' protocols, such as linearity, became laws of physics itself. The universe's infinite possibility was limited, the Time Lords instead defining what was rational. This caused whole civilizations to disappear, as Rassilon now had the power to choose what species developed. He exercised this in his imprisonment of the Divergents, who he saw as a possible rival to the Time Lords. The imposition of the Web of Time also drove the children of Pythia to powerlessness. However, in doing this, the Time Lords surrendered the creative and changeable parts of their souls, which collected in a cloud in Gallifrey's atmosphere before being banished into the Time Vortex by the first king of the majestic clockwork. At the same time, the Time Lords also lost their fertility, prompting the creation of looms and the great chapters of Gallifrey to stabilise the population. As a result, Gallifrey began 10 million years of total cultural stasis. In exchange, they were completely indestructible, with their metastructure of history preventing the creation of rival biological lifeforms. In the wake of the anchoring, multiple parties fled Gallifrey in the first Diaspora. These included the Eremites and the Children of Pythia, seen as the first Renegades. Many notable chapters from before the anchoring, like the Cherian and the Ixian, went into slow decay that would last millions of years. According to the Book of War, on the day of the anchoring, the monstrous entity that escaped into the universe was the Iskaroth. This began the Eternal War. However, other accounts indicated the great vampires were already active in the universe before the Gallifreyans had power over time, with it also being possible they escaped into N-space during Rassilon's early experiments using black holes. No matter the cause, the time of chaos had begun. The Dark Times were closed off through the Temporal Exclusion Zone, a form of time lock that theoretically was impenetrable. Following the anchoring, magic was banished from the universe. Psi was the last magic that survived, hidden in various cracks and bubbles throughout the universe, due to the fact it was the closest to science. And that is how the Time Lords rationalised the known universe, with Rassilon taking the lead in their new society. In Part 3, things will get a lot more muddled and complicated. What seems like it'll have been repeated from previous parts will have, but at the same time won't have. I don't fully understand it myself, to be honest, but anyway. Sorry that this part was 4 months after the last. I got a comment on the day I wrote this wondering where it was, which was a first. Big thank you to whoever that was, as it really spurred me on to get this all finished quickly. But anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.